one phrase you just made reference to was about anytime you're preparing to prevent something, you're kind of planning for it to happen. One of the kind of a controversial topic, I guess societally, if you want to call it, is the whole notion of vaccinations. That some people say they're horrible and awful, and some people say we have to have them to prevent diseases. And obviously, or at least to me it seems obvious, that it's all about the preventing of an illness. Why has not this kind of worldwide phenomenon of vaccinating against something, why does that disease not continue to proliferate if we're pushing and vaccinating against it?
Well, let's talk about it from the law of attraction point of view. So your presentation of this was from the point of view that a person who might be receiving a vaccination or giving one to one of their children is giving it in an attitude of prevention. Also, a case could be made that they're doing what they believe is best to promote wellness. Now, you don't know for sure on an individual basis which they're doing, but it could be that they're preventing illness, or it could be they're promoting wellness. In other words, and if you go general, it's easier to find your balance within that. So that's approaching it from what you earlier would have called the causation. In other words, the point where you're taking the action about something. But now we want to talk about what the vaccination actually does. What is the law-based property of the vaccination? It seems that it's an introduction into a physical apparatus of something technically unwanted.
Right.
With the expectation, the researchers and doctors have decided that the physical body will greet the contrasting experience with wisdom and will produce the desired property in order to ultimately produce a stronger vessel.
Right.
Sort of sounds a little bit like the reason that you came forth into the contrast to begin with. None of you said, I'm going to go forth and I want everything to be just the way I want it to be, and then I'll just observe it and live happily ever after. Every one of you said, the contrast will sharpen my desire, and my desire will summon the resources, and the combination of all of that will make me stand stronger. Leading edge, evolution, evolved, improved, you
so
see.
The belief in the benefit of the vaccination outweighs the danger is not the word I'm looking for, but the belief of the benefit.
Clearly. And that's not to say that every vaccination hits a home run. And we are really not trying to get into the middle of the controversy of all of that. But we know for sure that whether you believe that the vaccination is wrong and so you don't participate in it, in other words, it doesn't really matter if you have the vaccination or don't. Your pushing against it is detrimental to you.
Right.
And so many people stand in a place where they are determined that it is wrong, not realizing that they are doing far more destructive damage to themselves vibrationally than if they had gone ahead and gotten the vaccination. Because it's resistance. It's resistance that always causes discord, you see.
Right.
Now, in the greater scheme of things, there's never anything to worry about, because ultimately resistance is not an ongoing thing. In other words, resistance is advantageous to clarification and advantageous to focus. Haven't you noticed? We'll take it into a couple of different directions, and so we can lay this easily upon you. People worry about animals, they worry about extinction, they worry about this one not lasting, and we say, do you really miss those dinosaurs? Do you? Do you really miss them? And almost no one does. When you get it, that things are always getting better. Things are always getting better. They are changing, but they are always getting better. And the primary message that we are wanting to impart is that if you could just accept that one piece of things. Do you really miss polio? Do you miss it?
Right.
Hardly anyone does. And of course, it feels like a trite comparison to those who are in the throes of really wanting to push against things. But we just think that it is so unnecessary to push so hard against things. It does not have to be that hard.